Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show. I am your host, Andrew, joined as always by Adam, our betting expert. We're still going with that guru expert. We're still banging on with that.
Hey, I got you. I mean, if you had bothered to be in the country last week, then you would have seen that I got a very nice couple of winners that I tipped up, but no treble. No treble. So one day,
Well, you've
one
got
day.
some winners, so that's good for you at the moment. Because you are going for a bit of a dry spell for the show, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been rubbish this season, to be brutally honest. It's probably the way to look at it. Yeah, we can't pick anything. I have a theory about this. And the fact that we're talking about this really tells you all you need to know about what the Thursday night football game was like. But I have a theory about this. There's a lot of running backs, scoring touchdowns this year. And that means that their odds are ridiculously short. And we're not including them. So that's how come we're getting done.
Yeah, I think last week I had a fivefold of running backs just because that's how many you need to put in it to get any decent back from it. So I was let down by one. They all four came in and one didn't. It was Nick Chubb that didn't come in. So then he goes and scores two last night. So that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah. How nice of him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that will lead us into last night's game, as we always start with that. That was the Cleveland Browns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game ended 24-19 to the Cleveland Browns. Bit of a shock upset, this one. I think a lot of people had Pittsburgh winning this. Yes, Cleveland's defense has got healthy again, and when that is good, it's great, and it's a bit of a rivalry. So I think the records go out the window a little bit with this fixture, as it has done in the past. So thoughts on last night's game?
Yeah, I didn't stay up for it. I don't think many people did, to be brutally honest. It was, as you said, a surprise. I think obviously Myles Garrett had a great game and he did well. And really, the only thing to come out of it is that Jameis Winston's little face at the thought of playing in snow. I mean, that's pretty much the only thing that is worth noting for. And but yeah, I thought the Browns looked all right. The Steelers seemed to struggle to get going offensively, but then at the end they kind of came through and did all right. But yeah, just kind of like not amazing from the Steelers. Bit of a surprise given how well they've been this season. But yeah, it was a bit of a nothingy game. I'm surprised. I know it's a divisional matchup, but surprised that it was on TV on Thursday Night Football, I have to say.
Wow, yeah, Thursdays have been better this year than they have last year.
Yeah.
I think with the rivalry that it is, I think that people do want to tend to tune into that, and you've got those defensive people out there like Freddie.
Yeah.
Defense. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting matchup because there's usually a lot of flags, usually penalties, usually people being hit with helmets and things like that. So I can understand why it's been shown, but yeah, probably not the most exciting one they could have picked from this weekend. But, hey.
No, and Mason Rudolph isn't there anymore, so you're not going to get, anything significant, are you? So yeah, just a bit of a like, it just kind of felt like when I saw when we we did our poll and I did predictions for that, and I looked at it and I saw who was on the Thursday night game. I was just a little bit like, oh, okay, that's kind of how it felt a little bit.
Well, with that one out the way, we will jump into this week's fixtures, which I am going to have to do off the top of my head because they're on my phone and I had some connection issues before we started. So I am not being able to do that. So I believe my first one, Adam, was the Denver Broncos. I think I had the Broncos first at -6 going up against the the Las Vegas Raiders. Broncos seem to have got it going over the last few weeks. Absolutely phenomenal record. I don't think anyone expected them to be this good this early. We thought maybe they'd look better this year, but it seems to be cooking. And Bo Nix over the last 5 games, sort of putting up offensive rookie of the year stats. He's looking absolutely excellent. He's had multiple touchdown games. I think he's had 4 touchdowns in 2 separate games. And the Raiders, aren't looking great. They're looking like they want the pick. They're looking like they might not win games. Defense doesn't look as good as it was before, and offense is still as bad as it ever was. It's just Brock Bowers. So I think just under the touchdown. I know it's quite high at -6. I think just under the touchdown, I think they might be able to do this. I think Broncos are out to prove a point this year and do what they can to win games and put people away. So I'm going to take the Broncos at -6.
Yeah, I quite like it. The reason that I like it so much is just purely that Broncos defense. It's so good, and it is stopping every team now. And even in the games that they've lost, it feels like it's stopping the opposition quite a lot. So I think because of that, they are a superior defense on both sides of the ball. The Raiders, I still maintain that Raiders defense has still got something in it. It still does okay. When you look at them statistically, they're in the top half on both run and passing yards. So I think they do pretty well on that respect. But yeah, I mean, as you were saying about Bo Nix and how well he's done, he's actually 16-5 for the for offensive rookie of the year, behind Jaden Daniels at 2-9. Quite like it. I think 16-5 is a good price for him, and I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels is going to fall off a cliff, but I do feel like he's starting to maybe level out a little bit and not be quite as amazing as he was at the beginning of the season. So I quite like the 16-5 for that. But yeah, I think Broncos -6. They're an all right team, and they've got young, exciting weapons on the offense. They've got the likes of Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. They've got Vele as well, who they look like interesting, exciting players, and they've got a bit of know-how with Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael on the offensive coaching. And yeah, I think they just, like you say, they look like a team that wants to win. And the Raiders are definitely not a team that wants to win at the moment. And they very much are looking at the pick. They keep flicking between Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, they had Desmond Ridder out there for a little bit. It all just screams of, we don't want any of them. We don't want to win. We don't really know what to do, but one thing we do know is that we need a quarterback, and we're not going to mess it up and be the team that didn't get one in the draft last year and then do that again. So I think it feels that they want to definitely come back and have a high pick and lose these games. So yeah, -6 for the Broncos. I think it's got a good chance.
Yeah, maybe they pick up Daniel Jones. Who knows?
Oh no! Something else is happening there that'll be much funnier. We'll come to that later.
Oh, the Cowboys.
Hopefully.
Well, with not knowing, I'm pretty sure I had the Giants as it's just there. I'm not sure whether they were the next one on the list. But also, it's under the touchdown. The Giants have put Tommy DeVito in now. They've cut Daniel Jones. They haven't gone with their second string. They've gone with their third string quarterback, which all signs point towards they've heavily scouted Shedeur Sanders. They want a quarterback. They're moving forward. They don't want to win games. The Buccaneers are still in touching distance. Baker's the offense is still popping despite the fact they lost a load of offensive weapons, but it's somehow getting it done. So I see them winning this game by more than a touchdown. I can't see the Giants might stay in it early and then just fade away at the end because they don't want to win. So they'll show that they can play and then just drift off. So I think the -6 is good. This is a 7-10 plus written all over it for me for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, like the Bucks at -6. Think they look. I think Baker Mayfield's had a really good season this year. Obviously, there's been lots of injuries, but Mike Evans is meant to be back this week, so he should be good to go for that. They've got a really good run game with Rashad White and Bucky Irving. I think both of them have looked quite impressive, especially Bucky Irving. I think has looked very good in the season so far. And the Giants are actually 29th when it comes to giving up rushing yards. So it feels like that them two would be able to do something. And then if they can get that run game going, that then obviously opens up the passing game a bit more. the Bucks defense are not fantastic. They have struggled a little bit this season, but as you say, we've got a Giants team here who they're currently third when it comes in the draft for next year. It looks like that, as you say, they desperately want to go quarterback. Daniel Jones has now gone, and I think from what we saw last year, we all know that Tommy DeVito is not the answer, and that it's just going to be a bridge guy just for these next few games to try and get them through to the end of this season. Whether he ends up staying for as in being the starter for the rest of the season, kind of feels like it would be the logical thing to do if you want the highest possible pick you can get. But Drew Lock is there as well, so who knows? Malik Neighbours has got a groin injury, is that right? So he might not be around. No one seems to know, but that's popped up on the practice report today. So that's a bit of a concern. So it looks like he might not be there. And just in general, I suppose it's a little bit scary, and you just don't really think that they're going to be able to do a lot because they just haven't got much else other than Tyrone Tracy, who I think is a good start this week, because I think he's going to see a lot of the ball. And like I say, the Bucks are not amazing against the run. So yeah, I think the -6 is a good one, and I'd be surprised if the Bucks don't win it by that and more.
Yeah, I think 7 to 10 plus. I think easy, comfortably. Tommy DeVito's that he's been put in for the fans, really, hasn't he? The fans love him. It gives them a little bit of excitement, even if their team's going to get destroyed. So there's something fun there for them while their team's getting beat every week. So I think
just quickly, how do we feel as a Giants fan? Are we happy that it kind of feels like that now that there's been a clear break and that he's actually gone, that's a good thing? And how much are you hoping that the Cowboys do the funniest thing that they could possibly do and pick him up and then play him against you on Thanksgiving?
I mean, that would be great. Just it'd be one of those games where he ran all over us and threw for 4 touchdowns, and we went, "Hang on, what's happened here?" But yeah, it's very odd. It's the way it's been handled. It's a little bit like the Hard Knocks before the season started, isn't it? They obviously got a lot of respect for him. John Mara has, and the way they've gone about it, and the statement and everything, but. I suppose it's the best outcome for a Giants fan, really. We've seen glimpses at the start of the season of our team playing really, really good football and looking competitive against good teams. Then our left tackle got injured. Then a couple of our defenders got injured. We lost Thibodeau. Neighbours missed a few games, but Neighbours looks great. Our O-line looked great. Tyrone Tracy is a great find as well. All of our rookies this year have been good. So there's lots to really, really love moving forward. And now we know in the situation we're in that we're going to get that quarterback that is probably the missing piece. So I think it's probably the best outcome for us of being able to see what the future looks like. And then now, be in a position to get it, because I know when we were talking draft, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I didn't think we'd have a high enough pick to get one of those great guys. One of those, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, or Jalen Milroe. I didn't think we were going to be in a position, and maybe we'd have to wait around or go later on. So it's a nice position to be in as a Giants fan, and a bit of hope that we'll get a new quarterback and a fresh start, and it will be good. I hope we keep hold of Daboll and he doesn't lose his job through this.
I was going to say, surely this means he must have been given some form of assurance that he would still be coaching next year, because it would be a bit mental if you basically punished him for having a poor season after releasing releasing the quarterback that in theory, you've invested in and should be the one who gets you to wins.
Yeah, definitely. You can't punish the guy. I think I did say on another podcast before that maybe Schoen might get the chop based on the fact of how he dealt with the Saquon deal, and maybe that he might fall on the sword for the Jones deal. I don't know. But I think he drafted excellent last year. Everything's been a hit. We probably had the best draft out of everyone. So he's proven that he can draft. And Dayball, I think, has proved he can coach. So I'd like to see us keep hold of both of them and give them a year with their choice of quarterback, which obviously they didn't pick. So yeah, it's got to be all right. We move on to my next game. I believe I had the Detroit Lions at the Colts, -7.5. Bit of a risky one. It is over that touchdown, but I messaged you when I sent you over what I was picking, and I didn't like a lot of these lines this week. I thought there was some, even the one above it, a -10. Yeah, we think the Cowboys have been awful, but 10's a big number. So Lions have been blowing people out massively this year. We're seeing some massive points going on them, and they don't seem to want to take their starters out when they're sort of 30 points ahead. So it looks like they want to humiliate teams and win them convincingly. So why not take the gamble this week at -7.5 against the Colts, which they got to win, but was it just a bit of a fairy tale comeback game? Do a bit more. Can they do it against this Lions team? I'm not sure. So I'm going to take the -7.5. How do you feel about that? It is quite steep.
Yeah, it is high. But as you say, the Lions want to humiliate teams, seem to be the attitude, which I actually think in the long term will probably harm them more than what they think it will, because I think everyone's just going to get fed up with them eventually. But in this particular matchup, the Colts are not a good defense at all. They're really not. They're 28th against rushing yards, 26th against passing yards. You've got a really good offense of the Lions here that's very explosive and wants to put up as many points as it can. Yeah, okay, the Colts got the win against the Jets, but we are talking about the Jets. So, I mean, like, what did you expect kind of thing? And I know that people will come out and say that Anthony Richardson performed better last week, and he did, in fairness to him, but a lot of it was him on the ground and rushing rather than actually passing the ball, and there wasn't anything amazing from that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for any team to keep up with the Lions. I think potentially the Eagles could do it in the NFC, and after that, I'm not sure the way that the quarterbacks are playing whether there is actually anyone else. I don't think the Vikings can. The way Jordan Love's playing, I don't think the Packers can. So I think in a one-off game potentially, but to be able to keep up with this Lions team at the moment is just, you need to score pretty much every play, and that's going to be really difficult. And I just do not see the consistency from Anthony Richardson to be able to do that. So -7.5, yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah, the secondary is looking strong as well on that Lions
Yeah.
team. So it's hard to score big points against them every end. You're going to have to be put together sort of 9-10 play drives every time you get the ball. It's just not sustainable. So yeah, I agree with that. With that being said, Adam, you'd say that they are the best team in the NFC right now. Would you say they're probably the best team in the NFL right now? Would you have them above the Chiefs with the way they're playing, or do you think they're in amongst them, not quite there yet?
I think the way that they're playing, because they're literally scoring near enough every single possession, it's very difficult to see the Chiefs being able to compete with that, because the Chiefs don't do that. I actually think the Ravens are better suited to playing them, because they would be able to potentially score every single possession. Whereas for the Chiefs, it's more about holding your opposition to a smaller number. So I think the Ravens have probably got more chance in that respect, but it would have to be a shootout. That's the only way it'd work. In which case, it at the end, it probably would be a bit of a coin flip as to who wins it. So it would be difficult. I just think, although the Chiefs' defense is very good, I think it would depend. I suppose the problem is you sort of think to yourself, where would they play each other? And then you sort of go, well, I can only really see them playing each other in the Super Bowl. And if that's the case, they're indoors, so the offense is going to work pretty well for Detroit. And you just sort of think, oh, okay. So I think it would be tough. I think they probably are. The way they're playing, I don't necessarily agree 100% on the secondary. They do still struggle. They do still give up passing yards, but they are a team that's going to be very difficult for anyone to beat. But I get the feeling they're going to be one of these teams that does really, really well all season, and then they get that one game where it doesn't quite click, and then they'd be done.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the way it goes. We've seen a lot of
Yeah.
teams have records similar to theirs and then be one and done, and not make that Super Bowl push. My next game, I know we're split on this one. I believe it's my next one. It's the Vikings at the Bears. I have gone down the Vikings route of this game at -3.5. They are the favourites. As again, I was really struggling to pick this week between some of the teams, and the Bears, for me, I'm just not convinced by their coach, their play calling. Yes, their defense is good. Yes, Caleb Williams looked better last week. I just think the Vikings organization is run better. I think it's coached better. I know they've had their flaws over the last few weeks, and people might be catching them out. But the team is getting back to a little bit more health. They've got some more weapons back. So I think Vikings are the better team. I think they're the better coach. So I'm going to go with the Vikings at -3.5 as a lower one to pick from. No, it's just over the field goal, which no one likes. But like I said, I struggled and I liked this matchup with them being the favourites.
Yeah, it's not one that to be honest, it's not one that I'd really want to be looking at on either side, really. It feels kind of a little bit of a 50-50 coin flip one, this one. I'm a little surprised it's as high as 3.5. And if it had been lower, then I could understand your point. So it's the 3.5 that's kind of a bit puts you off a little bit here. The one thing I would say is that I think the Vikings, they look very good at the beginning, but it feels like it's plateaued out a bit. So it feels like Sam Darnold has sort of like come back down to earth a little bit, and it's just not quite as good as what it was. The run game with Aaron Jones has struggled a little bit over the last few weeks, partly because of injuries and partly just, I think, mainly opposition as well, and who he's gone up against. It's not been fantastic for the Vikings. So they're a little bit short there. I feel like Hawkinson, he's come back, but he hasn't got involved as much as what I felt that he would. So that's been surprising. And as great as Justin Jefferson is, he can only do so much. So it does kind of feel very much like when it comes to the Vikings, they're clearly a good team, and they're clearly not far away either. Like they just need a little bit of help on the defense, because you can beat them over the top. That's their problem. The Bears, I have to say, looked 100 times better last week. Really did. Shane Waldron being got rid of really seemed to change the way that the offense ran a lot more. It seemed a lot simpler, lot to a certain degree, a lot more like how Sean Payton is working with Bo Nix. It kind of felt like they just reduced everything. A lot of little passes out wide on the line of scrimmage to DJ Moore, and then having the blockers for him to then be able to make up the yards that way. Obviously, Caleb Williams being able to use his legs a lot more was something that we haven't seen for a few weeks now. So I think if they go down, they're at home again. If they go down that route again, which why wouldn't you? I mean, okay, you lost last week, but it was a bit of a freak thing at the end is the reason you lost. It wasn't because of how you played. It does feel like they are in a position here to be able to compete and do pretty well against the Vikings defense that you can score on. I like a couple of their guys this week to score touchdowns in the passing game. And also I know they're going up against a very, very good run defense here. But I think Roschon Johnson is looking good and is starting to maybe it's getting more 50-50, and if anything, more him taking over a little bit now. So I think that's a plus for them. And yeah, I just think they look a better team now that they've got rid of Shane Waldron, and I think that's a big thing. And I'm not saying go and do plus 3.5 on the Bears, because, like I say, it's not really one that I'd want to get involved in. But I think if it feels to me a bit like it could go either way, I'd rather have the plus.
Yeah, like I said, it was a tough choice, and
yeah,
I just think Vikings have got more in the locker for me, so I went with that one with it being such a lower point spread over some of the others. I went for it. My last game, I've had to dip into the late games, and I have taken the Philadelphia Eagles. Was it -3 that I got it at? Was that what you've got that? Yeah, so it hasn't moved. Eagles seem to have found their form, seem to be playing well, seem to have got it right with those rookies in the secondary now. Rams, I don't know which Rams turns up each week at the minute. I'm struggling to really point where they are, because some weeks they look fantastic and they look like they could top that division and get into the playoffs. And some weeks they look like they can't move the ball very well and they're making silly mistakes. And I just think the Eagles are really hard to score against at the moment. And although I don't think the offense is fully clicking, I watched them just hand the ball to Saquon Barkley and get nothing out of it for 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, boom, there he went, and he wins your games. So if that's how they're going to do it, then fair enough. When they've got Smith and AJ Brown as well, equally, if they find the opening, that I've seen them, both of them this season, just get one big pass during the game, absolute blown coverage, and go and score. So it looks like they can find ways to win games at the minute, and the defense is playing good football again, which is nice to see for their fans, I'm sure, because it wasn't looking great at the start of the year. So I'm going to take the -3 with the Eagles and say they've got the ball rolling, and they're going to beat a Rams team I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much right, to be honest. That is where we are with the Rams. It is kind of a little bit like not sure. And I think the reason behind that is that you had so many starters out, and now they've all come back in, and so now they've got to sort of get themselves up to speed a little bit. And it kind of feels like that's why maybe they're being a little bit inconsistent, and they're not quite up to what we would expect from them. So I think that might be the issue for the Rams. As you say, sometimes they can look very exciting and score loads of points, and sometimes they just can't seem to get the ball anywhere, and it's really difficult for them. The Eagles, I concentrate mainly on the defense when it comes to the Eagles. I just think that Vic Fangio has got them playing really, really well, and we always knew that they had a decent defense, but they've really stepped up in the last couple of weeks, and it feels like that this is how they're going to win it. So it's almost like offensively they don't need to go and score tons and tons of points, because that defense is just so strong now. And as you say, with the likes of Barkley, it doesn't take much, and AJ Brown, it doesn't take much, and it sounds like Devonta Smith is potentially going to be out for this game. It looks like he's picked up an injury, but even still, I think they look like a solid offensive unit that's going to do really well. The likes of Barkley can just win you a game just like that. And yeah, I just think they're the better all-round team at the moment, and I think because of that, I find it difficult to think that the Rams would win this. So yeah, -3. It's a frustrating one because it's -3, but even still, it's not that bad. So yeah, I think you take the -3 for it.
At least the 3 is a push, so your bet's still
Yeah.
live, and you get the win, rather than 3.5. So Adam, you really didn't like the Bears Vikings game. You want to take that one out of a fivefold. You want to replace it with another game. Which game did I miss that you'd be filling in for that one?
Well, there's a few here that I know you said you didn't like them, and I kind of get why. The one I'm going to mention is the Commanders at -10. Now, the reason behind this is that since Cooper Rush has come in as quarterback, the Cowboys have scored 6 points and 10 points in the 2 games. So realistically, are we expecting much more from a Commanders defense that's actually been pretty good this season? I'd be shocked if they got to 17, but I feel like this Cowboys defense against the run is poor, very, very poor indeed. And Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, and Jaden Daniels, I think that's where most of it's going to be when it comes to the Commanders' offense. And I think they're going to be able to sort of carve their way through them relatively easily. So the -10, I think that's, yes, it's big, but I think it's very doable. But the one that I do really like is the Miami Dolphins at -7 against the Patriots. That's the one that I kind of feel like that's where I'd be going. I know it's 7. I just think that Tua and Tyree, Jalen Waddle, Jono Smith, these guys seem to have really got it going now. I think with Tua back, you can see the difference. The defense was always pretty solid. Like even when they were struggling to score, the defense always did pretty well. So they're not too bad. I think they're a very good team, like a bit of a dark horse that could potentially sneak in because I think they could go in for a bit of a run now. Patriots are all right, but they're sort of just not really doing anything much. They're sort of trying to find their feet with Drake May. Sometimes he has a good game, sometimes he has a bit of a poorer one. I think away to the Dolphins could put on a bit of a scoring masterclass here and do pretty well. So yeah, that's the one that I really like. I won't be going for my Packers against the 49ers. Let's put it that way.
That's a tough one to call.
Avoid that one like the plague.
The Dolphins Patriots game was the one I was an hour in about. I had it in.
Yeah.
I moved it round. I wasn't sure. I said to you like that's the one I was quite torn between. I think the Dolphins have the potential to win this game by 7+. I'm just not fully sold yet. I know they looked good last week, but I don't know. Patriots are in a position similar to the Giants now, aren't they? Where it's a perfect position. They went with Brissett for a start. Now they brought May in. May looks like he's got the tools, and he looks like he can do everything. But the team's still struggling, and they're going to get a high pick. So it's going to be a great position for them to be in, where your future of your franchise looks good at quarterback, and you're going to get a decent pick again next year. So I'm guessing they're not overly bothered if they lose this one, but I think they've got the potential to keep it close with how good their defense is where my worry is, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. They do have the potential to keep it close. I mean, you said the only thing I would say is I just don't. This defense is not the old Patriots defense. That's the thing. They're actually statistically they're 20th against the run and the pass at the moment. So that they have games where they're okay, and then they have games where they just sort of like fall apart a little bit defensively. And although Christian Gonzalez will probably be on Tyreek Hill quite a lot, I would have thought. Jalen Waddle and Jonnu Smith are looking good at the moment and look fit as well, which is big for Waddle. And yeah, they don't look too bad. So, and even when they lost to the Bills, they looked all right. And I just feel like that offense is starting to click a little bit. And now that Tua's back, and so I just think they'll be a little bit stronger than what the Patriots will be.
Adam, you got any touchdown scorers for us?
Yeah, so that if you look for over 2-1 ones, there's not loads. But I went for Zach Ertz again for the Commanders against the Cowboys. As I've previously said, the Cowboys defense is pretty poor, and I just think that Ertz is kind of the safety blanket, isn't he? If they're not going to go for the run game, Ertz is kind of the safety blanket for Jaden Daniels. And so, yeah, I like him. He's got in a couple of times at 12-5. I think he's a really good price. Next one, over 2-1, we've gone for Josh Downs for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I know they're going up against the Lions, really good defense. They don't, last couple of games, they haven't given up many points. But they are 27th when it comes to giving up passing yards. And I think that if Richardson is going to have a passing touchdown, it's probably going to be to Downs, and it's probably going to be a big bomb over the top. So at 3-1, I think he's a decent price. My next one in the Vikings-Bears game, I've gone for DJ Moore, who is currently 12-5, I believe, for
Yep.
DJ Moore. He is getting more involved. He got more involved last week. There was a lot more targets. And I think that if that's the case, there's a little bit more chance of him potentially scoring. Do like someone else in that, but we're not telling you that because that's in another one. So yeah, I like him. I think he'll do well. And then after that, the only one really that I can mention, because they're not in the trebles, is Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals against the Seahawks. Now, I know that James Conner is the main running back here, but Trey Benson has looked really good when he's come on. And he's going up against the Seahawks defense at 27th against rushing yards. And he's looked fit, strong, aggressive runner. Kind of reminds me of James Conner, actually, just obviously younger. And I get the feeling that he's going to be involved maybe a little bit more than what we were all thinking, because James Conner obviously got this history of picking up injuries all the time. Going into this late stretch now in the season, that's the last thing they're going to want, is him getting injured. So I do feel like they're going to maybe bring Benson in, give him a few more touches than what everyone maybe thought. So yeah, at 3-1, really like him.
I thought he was a fantastic prospect coming into the draft. And I loved him. I thought we might have seen more of him up until this point, but it's nice to see him back on there. And I agree. I think he's phenomenal. And like we've seen with Braylon Allen, they're coming in and you don't want James Conner getting injured on a straight up the middle big bosh. So it's good to bring these youngsters in and take that load for you. So I like that bet, especially at 3-1. Adam, we're going to do your treble first, because I'm going to have a look at what my odds were on mine. So I will still be here. I will still be able to hear you. I'll still be able to go through it. I will probably just turn into a little blank screen with a spinning wheel. So Adam, take yours away.
This isn't very professional, is it? I mean, honestly. So my first one in the early games, I am going for Austin Eckler, Washington Commanders against the Cowboys. As I said, Cowboys can't defend anything, really poor against the run. Yes, Brian Robinson is going to get most of the rushing attempts, but Eckler had 8 targets, I believe it was, last week. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that with him. So at 8-5, I think he's a really good price. My second one is a bit of a biggie. We're going for Rome Odunze at 15-4 against the Vikings. Now, I think that Odunze, I don't know what Caleb Williams would say, but I think Odunze is probably his favoured target now, to be honest, that it feels that way rather than the others. Also, I think Odunze tends to be more of the big play target as well. And he is going up against the Vikings defense that's 28th against passing yards. So I quite like him at 15-4. And then finally, as I mentioned with the Dolphins, Jonas Smith at 11-5. Really like the look of Jonas Smith. Liked him last week when I put him up. And he just looks like a really good red zone target for the Dolphins. Everyone's concentrating on Tyreek. If they're not on him, they're on Jalen Waddle. Jonas Smith is getting completely overlooked. And I think he will have a good chance of scoring this week. So Eckler at 8-5, Odunze 15-4, Jonas Smith at 11-5, 38.52-1.
It's gone for a big one. Might have to have a little dabble on that. I have some on those odds. Mine, I have gone with a guy that you've already mentioned. I've gone with Zach Ertz as my first one. Then I have taken one from the Patriots game. I think not the Patriots game, the Chiefs game. I just feel like against the Panthers, they're going to give up points. I like DeAndre Hopkins in this one. Just think he's got a great chance of getting in the end zone against the Panthers, because I do feel like there's multiple touchdown opportunities for the Chiefs against this team. I know he's not produced, he only produced in that one game so far, but I do think he's got a really, really good chance of getting in the end zone this week specifically. And then my last one is a guy that seems to be scoring quite a bit. I think, again, Buccaneers are going to score. They're going to score well. So I have taken Cade Otton in this one, a guy that's been very heavily used since some of the big guys have been out, and I feel like he still will do again. That all comes in at 21.3 to 1. So, a couple of tight ends in there and an old school wide receiver. I think that's got a good shot.
Yeah, I had Hopkins down as a potential. I think he sort of disappeared last week, but he's one of them that I think he will come back and he'll do well. Cade Otton, think that he's very much. I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but Mike Evans is back. But it's more Chris Godwin being out is what makes the difference for Otton. So that's fine. And who was the first one?
Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz, yeah. Well, as I said, I had Zach Ertz as well. So yeah, I think that all three of them have got a good chance of getting in this week, going up against pretty poor defenses as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's my thoughts. There's going to be multiple touchdown opportunities for all of them in all those games. So that's why I like them. Adam, I'm going to disappear again, but what's your late one?
So my late one, I've gone for something to help you, something you're going to love. Is what I've gone for. I've gone for quarterback sneaks on this one. I haven't gone for 3 quarterback sneaks, but I've gone for 2 quarterback sneaks. So the first one in the Broncos-Raiders game, not Gardner Minshew, but I have gone for Bo Nix at 13-8. I think that he's very good with his legs. He's always likely to get a rushing touchdown. So really like Bo Nix in this game. And it's funny, I was looking at these 3 games, and it's difficult when there's only 3 to choose, like 3 games to choose from. But I was looking at Denver, and it was literally like, okay, I'm either going to have to go Bo Nix, or I'm going to have to go for something crazy like little Jordan Humphrey or Troy Franklin or something like that, massive prices, because some of these guys are huge prices. And when you think of how many came in last week for them, I wouldn't put anyone off Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin or Humphrey or any of them. They're all big prices, and they're going up against, I know I say the Raiders defense hasn't given up, but they, you can score on them. So any of them are good shouts for this week. But yeah, I've gone Bo Nix at 13-8. In the Cardinals Seahawks game, I've gone Kyler Murray at 7-5. Just think he's going to get them little legs going, and off he goes again. So I think he'll score. And the Seahawks, not great against the run. Has really struggled against the run. So I do think that Murray could have a good game using his legs. And then in the 49ers Packers game, I've gone for George Kittle at 2-1.
That's not
the
Packers.
No, I did say 2 out of 3. I couldn't go the whole way. Kittle, Packers have struggled against the tight end most of the season. I think that Kittle, obviously he missed last week, but has looked really good all season, had quite a few touchdowns. And Debo not looking great this year. I don't know quite what's happened there. Seems to have dropped.
It's worst season, isn't it?
Yeah, dropped off quite a bit. Obviously, Ayuk's not there. I know Christian McCaffrey's back, but I think that Kittle could have a decent game. He loves playing against the Packers in the snow, so it looks like that's what we could be getting. And yeah, so they're my 3. Nix, Murray, and Kittle, 17.9-1.
Mine's slightly higher than yours. Mine is 18 point something to 1. But I have gone down a similar route with you for the first game. I have also gone Bo Nix in this game. But I did look at all those names you mentioned. I looked at Vele, Humphrey, Mims, and Franklin. I thought Mims maybe or Franklin might be the better one at 5-1 as well. I liked that, but I thought Nix is a strong one to go for. So I went with Nix as well. In the second game, who did I go for? Oh, in the second game, I went for DK Metcalf. I thought it was a nice, solid bet. Like the odds on it as well. was targeted loads last week. Thought, I think Gino's missing DK quite a few times when he's thrown in the ball, and I think if they're going to continue going towards him, he's going to get a touchdown. Once it's in his hands, he has the ability, like AJ Brown, just to break away and get a long touchdown. So I think there's always that potential for him. And then my last one in the Packers game, I went with Tucker Kraft. Guy that idolizes George Kittle, so he's going up against one of those guys he loves. So I think he might get in the end zone. It's hard to pick with the Packers receivers, but I think Tucker Kraft is probably one of them. The targets are definitely going to go towards him, towards that red zone play. Seems to be getting it, and the others seem to be sharing it, and he's getting the target. So I've gone with Tucker Kraft in that one. And as I said, it's just over 18-1 for that bet.
Yeah, I like Kraft. I had him written down as a potential. I agree. I think that because he's the tight end, he's the one who's going to be out there the most, and all the receivers sort of mixing about and stuff like that. Obviously, Bo Nix got and DK Metcalf. The Seahawks are just so hit and miss at the moment. I don't know, that's the problem. But he should be the number one target. I just think that so much seems to be going through Ken Walker now through the Seahawks, and I don't quite know why that's the case. I mean, obviously he's really good, but you just sort of think, Gino's a competent passer. He's got 3 weapons there. It should be, more should be going towards them, and so it's a little bit surprising. And the Cardinals, you just don't know what you're going to get with them defensively. So you could get a game where you can score highly. So yeah, I think because of that, it's not a bad one.
The over-under is 47.5. So I think the bettors think it's going to be a bit of a shootout as well. So yeah, I'm surprised they don't go to JSN more after Metcalf and Lockett were both out. JSN got everything and had a monster game, and then they just haven't gone back to him again. Very, very odd, but hey ho, that's what it is. Well, that's all we've got time for. Great to be back. Great to be talking about all the odds and the betting. Just hope we get another F-Tag 5 because we've been doing so well at it so far this season. So we will put that out onto social media. So keep your eyes peeled. But till then, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.